This is about to get messy and loud. In a coastal town of central Greece, there's an annual carnival tradition called Clean Monday, and well, that's not the most accurate name. But as the 40-day period of Lent began this week in the Greek Orthodox Church calendar, revelers suited up, armed themselves with sacks of flour dyed with food coloring, and proceeded to make a powdery, messy mayhem. The story goes that this tradition started in the early 1800s when Greece was under Ottoman rule. Carnival celebrations were banned at that time, but Reuters News reports that defiant locals covered their faces with ash and went dancing in the streets. Today's festivities bring out both residents and visitors, some of them saying how they wind up looking doesn't matter. This event, after all, is the Flower War. But the only weapon is powder, and the main strategies are celebration, fun, and joy. Thanks so much for watching The World from A to Z on our last show this February. My name is Carl Azuz, and right now we're going to take you around the world in 80 seconds. Negotiators from the US and Iran met in Switzerland yesterday to discuss Iran's controversial nuclear program. This has been an international issue for years. Iran says its program is for peaceful purposes like energy, and that it won't give up its right to have it. But the United Nations says Iran has the materials to make nuclear weapons. Numerous other countries suspect it's been trying to do that, and US President Donald Trump says any deal with Iran will have to include a promise that it will never have nuclear weapons. International sanctions, penalties on Iran's economy, are in place to pressure the country, and American officials announced more of those on Wednesday. Iran is a rival of the US and a sworn enemy of Israel, a US ally in the Middle East. That's one reason why several American presidents have been focused on Iran's nuclear capability. In southeastern Brazil, tremendous amounts of rain have triggered at least 20 landslides, and authorities say more rain is in the forecast. At least 46 lives have been lost this week as slopes collapsed, causing mud and debris to cover homes and buildings in the region. More than 20 people were still missing when we produced this show, and security forces are helping in search efforts. Southern Brazil is prone to flooding, according to the World Factbook, and low-income communities with poorly built homes are at greater risk. In parts of Boston, Massachusetts this week, it was easier to walk down the middle of the road than on the snow-packed sidewalks on either side of it. With power lines down and streets unplowed in some areas, there are a number of schools in Massachusetts that closed through today, and they weren't on winter break. These are just some of the lingering effects of the major winter storm that blasted the Northeast early this week. With blizzard conditions and hurricane-force winds, it wasn't exactly a silent snowfall, but such a thing does exist.
After a good blanket of snow, the landscape often seems peaceful, as if a hush has fallen upon it, along with the snowflakes drifting down. Well, it's not just your imagination. Snow truly does bring quiet to the world. Part of the reason is a human element. People are more likely to stay home during snowstorms. If you're like me, nestled on the couch with tea and a good book. Less people outside means less noise from their bustling about, and the usual cheerful chirps of birds are often quiet as well. According to the National Audubon Society, the ones that stick around tend to hunker down during snowstorms. There's also a scientific reason behind the silence. Snow absorbs sound. When a nice thick blanket covers the ground, it traps sound waves. This has to do with the porous nature of a fresh snowfall. It's hard to see with the naked eye, but individual snowflake crystals are six-sided. This leaves plenty of open spaces, and these gaps are very efficient at trapping sound, which creates a tranquil effect. But not all snowfall does the trick. A light dusting or a heavy wet snow won't create quiet. It has to be a few inches of light, fluffy snow. And even that is short-lived. As the snowflakes melt, the gaps between the crystals shrink. The blanket of snow begins to compact and often ices over. Instead of dampening the sound, it actually is amplifying it now, the sound waves bouncing off the surface of the packed snow and ice. So while a fresh snowfall does bring silence, it's temporary, gone as quickly as the snow melts. Not to mention, people will likely want to get outside and enjoy the fleeting snowfall.
On this date Chile's worst earthquake in 50 years struck on this date in 2010. The quake, measuring magnitude 8.8, was centered just off the nation's west coast, killing more than 500 people, injuring thousands, and triggering tsunami warnings as far away as New Zealand. U.S. presidential term limits were made official on this date in 1951. The Constitution's 22nd Amendment stated a president could only have 2 terms in office, though few had ever tried running a third time. Only Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected more than twice, serving for 12 years during and after the Great Depression. And New Orleans put on what's considered to be its first Mardi Gras celebration on this date in 1827. Students donned costumes and danced their way through the streets on Fat Tuesday, the day before the start of the season of Lent. Mardi Gras became a formal celebration years later and attracts hundreds of thousands of partygoers.
Word knowledge. Which of these animals is believed to have the strongest sense of smell? African elephant, bloodhound, brown bear, hammerhead shark. While there's still some debate about this, the nearly 2,000 olfactory receptor genes of the African elephants are thought to give them the best sense of smell.
An adorable new member has been added to Michigan State University's honeybee research team.
We work a lot with honeybee bacterial diseases and other pests that affect honeybees. One of the projects we're excited about is working with Maple, who we are training to detect for the honeybee disease American foulbrood.
The former search and rescue pup turned honeybee helper is an English Springer Spaniel, a hunting breed known for a strong sense of smell and desire to please. Those characteristics, plus Maple's work history, made her an ideal candidate for the job.
It's pretty much the same across the board, whether you're training our narcotics dog or explosives dog. You take the target odor, you present it to them.
Maple's nose can give an early warning if any Michigan State bee colonies are infected with American foulbrood spores. Early detection is key to stopping the spread. Adult bees can easily fight off the bacteria, but spores transfer to and kill larvae easily. If a hive's population drops, robber bees come in looking to steal honey and resources, and they can carry the bacteria back to their own hive. Last year, the USDA reported that mites spread throughout U.S. honeybees. Beekeepers do all they can to stop the disease from spreading.
So we have beekeepers that have, 5,000, 10,000 colonies, and it's very hard to go through them with enough rigor to actually see all of the disease.
Researchers are documenting Maple's training and how she suits up with her sting-proof gear and protective booties, aiming to share their work with other beekeepers and showcase one alternative disease detection method in beekeeping.
Fridays are awesome, and when it comes to the number of today's schools, we have a fantastic 4. From the Old Dominion of Virginia, Chesterfield Juvenile Detention is watching in Chesterfield. Hello to Mrs. Drury's class. We're in Philadelphia today, where Mr. Laughlin's class is watching from Baldy Middle School in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. Miss Tanya, we see you and your students at San Juan High School. Let's go Spartans in Citrus Heights, California. And in the village of Katterbach, Germany, a warm welcome to Mr. Brown and the Cougars of Ansbach Middle High School. Another amusing installment of animals in places they shouldn't be. First, cows on a New York interstate. 3 of them apparently escaped from a broken down trailer and stopped traffic until they could be rounded back up. And this makes total sense in a rodeo, less sense on a road in Florida. But while police corralled traffic, a loose cow's owner used a horse and a lasso to rope the runaway ruminant and slow it down so it could be loaded back onto the trailer. Make no mistake, the stakes were high, or at least fast enough to avoid the grills of cars until cowboys and cowgirls could turn up the heat on them and keep them off the road long enough to make a Steerly Choice primetime roundup. It was a job well done, another gold medal effort for the USDA, and concludes another week of select coverage on the world from A to Z. I'm Carl Azuz, and you mean the world to me.